Arvind P.Datar, Senior Advocate, to kindly give his lecture.
Good afternoon, Honorable Justice Sikri, Mr. Khanna, Mr. Yadav, Mr. Sharma, my colleague Madhavi Divan, and my dear friends who have stayed on well beyond 2 o'clock. I will not take much time. On a miscellaneous day to listen to law beyond 2:20 is really violation of Article 21. Incidentally, I'll just make, with the permission of Justice Sikri, I'll just mention one more thing. We had a unique privilege of Mr. K.K. Venugopal being present here. I would just like to tell the younger members of the audience that if you see Minerva Mills, AR 80 Supreme Court, page 1789, Mr. K.K. Venugopal was the Additional Solicitor General who argued the case. And Mr. Palkhiwala appeared for the petitioner. And the other interesting information is Mr. Palkhiwala's junior in Minerva Mills was none other than Justice Rohinton Nariman. So this is the part. Now, coming to this economic perspective, you see, as far as, I'm just going to be brief, just about 10 minutes. In terms of lawmaking, you have lawmaking at the legislative level, at the executive level, and at the judiciary. At the executive level, very briefly, till the 60s, you had a completely bipolar world. You had one set of countries following the capitalist doctrine laid down by Adam Smith and so on. You had the communist countries following the Karl Marx doctrine. Over the years, all those things diluted, and today we have what to call the neoclassical theory, which is an amalgam of right wing and left wing. Your right wing represented the followers of Adam Smith down to Milton Friedman, and on the left wing you have people like Joseph Stiglitz, and a combination of those is the middle order of the country. But I'm not concerned with that. I'm also not talking of the executive, the regulators. If you take every regulated industry, SEBI, electricity, TRAI, all these cases, economics plays a very, very important factor. But due to shortage of time, I'm just going to confine myself to one important judgment delivered by Justice Sikri in 2017, that is Shiv Shakti Sugars versus Renuka Sugars, where the Supreme Court laid down, and they used the word bounden duty. They said it's the bounden duty of the courts to consider the economic impact and the economic analysis of a particular judgment. This is particularly important in India because you have Article 142, you have Article 226, where the High Courts and the Supreme Court can simply stop an industry at the interlocutory stage or at the final stage. Now, the consequences of this can be quite horrendous. Justice Sikri mentioned the liquor ban, with which I was concerned. I was appearing for all the liquor people from Tamil Nadu. Now, on the 30th of April, by straight one order, all liquor shops on highways throughout India were shut by one single order. Look at the consequence. Well-intentioned order. The matter came from Punjab. They said in Punjab, for every 100 kilometers, there are some 125 liquor shops. And therefore, as Justice Sikri pointed out, was there a causal link between highway liquor shops and accidents? According to us, the statistics showed that only 6.81% of the accidents were due to this. But the Supreme Court felt otherwise. We respect that. But look at the economic consequences. According to Government of India statistics, by that particular decision, 26,800 shops all over India on the highway were shut. 1 lakh people lost jobs directly. The loss of excise revenue was simply staggering. Now, following Justice Sikri's judgment, the court could have had an economic analysis. How much of liquor shops, how many are there on the highways? What is the quantum sold? Why are we banning hotels and bars situated in the cities? Because in many cities, the main roads are declared as state highways. So all hotels in next to that was closed. In Madras, for example, from where I come, except Taj Coromandel, all 5-star hotels were closed, and Taj was not shut because it was 620 meters from the highway and it escaped. And just one instance at 2 o'clock, so I thought I'd just give an interesting example of how people get over the liquor ban. A person went to Pune to a 5-star hotel and went to the bar on the ground floor and asked for a drink in the evening. They said, we can't serve you liquor on the ground floor. But this is a 5-star hotel by one of the reputed companies. But they said, if you go to the 7th floor, there's an Indian restaurant, we serve liquor there. So I asked him, how do you do this? So he said, if you take 500 meters and count the steps, we cross 500 meters on the 7th floor. And gentlemen, this story is true because I was that guest. Now, so I felt that economic analysis they could have done. As far as diesel ban is concerned, I had the occasion to appear for Mercedes-Benz in that diesel occasion. Now you ban it overnight. There's no difficulty. You've got the power to do it. But what are the economic consequences? Now all these companies plan their point 5 years, 6 years in advance. They go by the basis of BS4, BS5, BS6. Their vehicles are legally compliant. And as I mentioned in one judicial academy where Justice Sikri also was present, I said India has a very, very strange paradox where what is legally permissible becomes judicially impermissible. And that can never be done. So the first principle is that when we decide to get into economic consequences, we should first understand is what is being done statutorily valid. If that is the case, then there should be no interference. Apart from liquor and this diesel, Justice Sikri mentioned firecrackers. Yes, it is a serious problem. No doubt, the pollution in Delhi is horrendous. I fortunately come from Madras and Bombay where the seashore is there and they are the lungs of the nature, and we don't have this kind of pollution which we have here. But at the same time, now the Supreme Court has to balance it. There's a concept which Justice Sikri has said about green crackers. Can we have firecrackers? We don't want to spoil the Diwali fun, but we do it with a responsible way. We have green crackers where the barium nitrate content is low. Because at stake are 7 lakh jobs in Tamil Nadu. You take any Tamil news channel today, there are news item after news item, people coming on the streets because of jobs and so on and so forth. But at the same time, if it is going to be noxious and harmful to health, then there is no justification for that to country. Is there a balancing interest? Other most very, very devastating effect was the mining orders, the ban on coal and ban on so on and so forth. I know cases where people have started a power project based on a coal allocation. They have taken loans. They have entered into power purchase agreement with the government. Now overnight you ban the coal allocation. Your power purchase goes for a toss. Your entire industry is shut down. And there is simply no recourse because if it's an executive order, you can challenge it, but if it's a judicial order, there is no remedy at all. And I felt that Justice Sikri's judgment in the Renuka Sugars came in May 2017. And at that time I had felt it came in the summer. And I felt that if this judgment had come 2 years earlier, maybe the courts in the liquor case or the diesel case or the mining case would have said, should I shut down all the mines? Should I cancel all the coal allocation? Can I say that everybody should pay 294 from 1994? What is the economic impact? Can the industry sustain it? All these factors would have been taken into account and perhaps the orders would have been different. Now, Justice Sikri mentioned about Richard Posner and so on. Those of you who are interested, all the foreign literature, I find that they discuss the impact of economics on law. But there is no literature on examining the economic consequences of a judgment. Because perhaps they don't have Article 142, they don't have, I mean, I can't imagine the UK Supreme Court saying diesel vehicles should not be there. That can't be done. But India, it is possible. So in India, we've got a unique feature where hereafter, we must consider the economic consequences. There is a lovely article, those who are interested, the summary of this thing is in Richard Posner's article in the Texas Law Review. If you want, it is 1975, 53 Texas Law Review, page 757. You go to the University of Chicago website, that article is easily available for downloading. It's 20 pages, it summarizes all the law. You can read that. Other point you must raise in this context is Professor Lon Fuller's article in the Harvard Law Review, where he says where judiciary should not interfere or should be very careful. And he calls it polycentric disputes. Take liquor. It's not just the liquor, it's the liquor shops, it's the hotels, it's the bars, it's the employment, it's tourism, tax revenue, all these are things. So he says these multiple factors are like the strands of a spider's web. You touch or put too much pressure on that, the whole web will snap. And he says that these are not concerns which are meant for adjudication by the courts, because the courts can't, in a case, listen to all the stakeholders, and these are best left to the legislature. But in our system, I would submit that if the courts really want to get into this question of banning, say, firecrackers or diesel or alcohol, then it is better to hear all the stakeholders. In Environment Protection Act, you got environmental impact assessment. So I would canvass that, as Justice Sikri has put it in his judgment, that after Ronak, the next judgment is Renuka Sugars. But There are some stray observations of economic analysis, stray observations saying court should not get into these areas, but there is no consistent, coherent body of law as to what should be the study undertaken in deciding the economic consequences of a particular judgment. And I would submit just shortly that, see, is it a state problem or a national problem? If liquor was a problem in Punjab, is that the problem all over India? Not necessary. Can you put a 500-meter ban in a state like Kerala, which is narrow? It's not possible. So see what is the impact in your particular judgment. What is the consequence on employment? What is the consequence of revenue collection? What's the consequence on environment? So ladies and gentlemen, Justice Sikri's judgment for the first time says there's a duty cast upon the courts to consider the economic impact and economic analysis of their decisions. Maybe this seed sown by Justice Sikri should grow into a tree, and we should have soon a coherent body of the law. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr.